Davidson.
I thank the chairman. A very heartfelt thanks for having this hearing. Frankly, it's a shame that we had to wait this far after the events in Afghanistan to have a hearing like this. And while this committee is generally very collaborative and bipartisan, I think the delay in it should be noted. And part of the problem has been the lack of accountability for, frankly, senior leaders, whether in uniform or out of uniform. People that were deployed on the ground were held accountable for all kinds of things, rules of engagement that often were incompatible with the missions that they were assigned to do, a lack of a clear mission. No one ever really defined what victory was for many years on the ground there, yet we kept sending people over. Each commander would define it a little differently. You don't have to have served in uniform to know that it's a bad plan to get the military out first and then try to get the civilians out. The fact that it turned out the way that it did is probably better than you would think if you took the military out first and then you got the civilians out. But I just wonder, Mr. Hong, if you could comment about the challenges you faced as a member of Congress, as the chairman highlighted in his opening remarks. You know, I was dealing with people who were sending me copies of American blue passport holding citizens, dozens of them, in areas of the country, Mazar-e-Sharif, for example, trying to get out, desperately trying to get out, manifest with hundreds of people on planes, working with the State Department, and finally, the people on the ground there would get a safe third country to give them clearance to leave. And rather than help, our own State Department contacted the safe third country and worked to cancel the clearance so that people stayed on the ground. Now, I still can't figure out a motive for that, but I know that it happened. So I can't imagine the people that were stuck on the ground, the people that risked their own lives to help us accomplish our disjointed mission there over years, and some of whom were lost after they had to disperse and wait and hide and be hunted down because our State Department gave control of our embassy and all of our known allies over to the Taliban, and it basically turned into a hunting list. They hunted them down in their homes, and I just can't imagine that, but I know a lot of you had a hand in this, but you know, Mr. Hong, if you could comment on what it was like and the kind of role that you and others played, because frankly, the idea that we needed civilian dollars to come in and do this is mind-blowing. I mean, this is clearly the mission of the United States of America, yet we were trying to bridge it from people who felt a bond of loyalty and did. So thank you for doing that, but also just what were you confronting as you were dealing with that?
Congressman, thank you. I appreciate the question. There's been a lot that has happened in the last year and a half that has shaken my faith in our government. There was a yawning gulf between our obligations to our allies and what our government was able to do in August of 2021. However, thousands of our citizens saw that yawning gulf and jumped in and helped. And they did it from their bedrooms, they emptied out their savings accounts, they took on challenges that they shouldn't have been in a position to have to take on. So my faith in America and Americans has never been stronger. It was unreal at times to get requests, and I'm not the only person on this panel that has received these requests, from congressional offices, from executive level agencies, from high-ranking officials asking for help evacuating their allies, me, us, private citizens, receiving requests from our own government to assist what is essentially a governmental function. So it was humbling, it was terrifying, it was at times stupefying.
Well, it's well said. And I just got to say, look, we had a conversation here. Republicans, particularly Republican veterans, came back here to Washington, D.C. to basically plead with the administration to make this an event-based exit, not a time-driven thing, but an event-driven thing. When do we get all of our people out? Well, okay, that's the last day there, and not until then. Instead, the administration stayed on a timeline of 31 August, and inconceivably to me, we had colleagues who wanted to deny that the missions that you guys were part of in the private sector, trying to save people in other parts of the country, were even happening. And but for the records that we preserved and were on State Department computers, I truly believe they would have continued to try to deny and lie and say that they weren't even there. Thankfully, we had the evidence, we had the proof, and your statement, we still have faith in the American people, is well-founded. And may God bless this country, the people who are still trapped in Afghanistan, and may we finally do the right thing. I yield.